Hello, my love. Hello, hello, hello. My name is Dustina. This is Spiritual Boujee Astrology, and we're going to take a look at the astrological transits of January 26th to February 1st. Now, I've got to tell you right now, the amount of comments, DMs, emails, smoke signals, telepathic conversations that I have had from so many of you since last week's episode has been crazy. It has been mind boggling because so many of you, once you heard the land of confusion and we actually started to go through last week, that whole thing of like, you're going in one of two directions. It's pure confusion and triggers and stuff like this, or it is pure fueling and direction with the idea of a growth and potential. And there was like no very much in between. So many of you have told me like that's exactly where you were. And I'm very surprised of how many people were actually hearing the Material Girl song at the same time that I was. So that's funny. And the other thing about last week, which is feeding into how I start to describe, this coming week, is not only was it like the land of confusion, but last week was a hell of a week where nothing went to plan. Nothing followed the routine. Nobody was able to stick to anything, missing appointments. And I'm saying this from my perspective. I had medical emergencies. We had the big snowstorm that's hitting like 2/3 of the country where I had to do like prep for my own house. And then I have a little old man next door that I like to help him too. Um, in addition to that, I have been volunteering with a local Jeep club that I used to be a part of. Please note how I said that. I told them that I would volunteer and help them this weekend, but it would be the last time that I ever volunteer with them. So if you ever get curious of what I'm talking about now, there is a Jeep club called Jeepers Anonymous. I did a lot of stuff with them for years, and they are a nonprofit where they were providing rides to medical personnel here in the Northeast Oklahoma, Tulsa area. And the way that went across is like was very overwhelming. The funny thing is it really tied into the rest of the theme for what I was going through last week. And I'm more focused on the theme because this has given me a direction. The main reason that I'll tell y'all that I won't be doing anything else with this Jeep Club is because I've seen another direction whenever it comes to the needs in the nonprofit area. And I will talk about this more in the future. Just know there's something very big in the works now based off of how last week went. And the one thing I said about last week is as much as we can have the confusions, things not going to plan, the triggers, the frustration, the core shaking with all the Pluto transits, is given the fact that it was the final days of Neptune in Pisces. For a lot of people, we're doing something for the last time, like I just said. For more people, there was a fueling. That fueling for some people was towards a belief, was towards a manifestation. For other people, it was a fueling in rage, quite literally the word rage. And we're going to have that word a couple times this week. Because as we go into this week, there's a series of reactions. And there are three transits that speak to this. Two, if I put it on the scale of like pivotal versus chaotic, they're going to be more so chaotic. Their fueling is going to fall for a lot more people in the chaotic area than they are the pivotal area. The third and final one, and that's actually going to be how we end the week. I'm not torn either way. It's either 50-50, but it feels like it solidifies something based off of how the transits are going to go this week. So, what are the three transits that I'm referring to that I feel like are fueling this week the most? One, Neptune goes into Aries. It re-enters Aries, but please note re-enters. What I was saying last year when Neptune was in Aries, that whole timeline of like late March to October, because that's how long Neptune was there, is this is a pinky toe dip. This is a glimpse of something. There's more to the stories. There's more detail. There's more information. There's more going on than you immediately see. You're testing the waters. You're becoming aware. If you're anything like me, because that's what my intuition was telling me the entire time, I tried so many different things. I tested so much crap, just throwing and throwing and throwing and see what stuck to the wall. And literally by the time I got to the end of the summer, I'm like, and I'm not doing that same way anymore. I did those lessons. Now show me why. And now it has. With the re-entry of Neptune into Aries, there is a fueling, but for some people, it's going to be a manifestation. It's going to be positive. It's going to be pivotal. It's showing you a direction in a good way. For other people, there is a reaction. And that reaction can go into the chaotic category. It can be rageful. It can be angering. It can be fights. It can be tension. It can be warlike, not a word that I normally use. Notice a couple words I don't normally use. Yeah. It's going to be a very intense week, especially at the start. We're going to put a pin in that. Transit number 2. We're going to have a final conjunction to Pluto this week. And that's going to be the conjunction of Mars and Pluto. Now, Aquarius risings, you're still on deck. You're super popular right now. Scorpio risings, that's both of our chart rulers because I'm a Scorpio rising too. Aries risings, this is your chart ruler making a conjunction to Pluto. This is a very heavy, hot-headed energy where the god of war, back to that word, and the god of death are having their second meeting in Aquarius. Now, here's the thing. Notice I said it's the second one. The second one that we're going into this week is closing out a cycle of the last 2 years, specifically that started the week of Valentine's Day of 2024. You have to go back a long way to find this episode that I'm referencing, but I said it back then. There's something happening behind the scenes when it comes to people in positions of power, and we were not going to fully understand it until we got to the second, Mars-Pluto conjunction. We would see things unfold over 2 years, going from 2024 now to 2026. And in a lot of ways, they're going to arise with tension. They're going to arise with frustration. They're going to really fuel a lot of people. And they're going to create divides to where there is going to be elements in one direction or another. And people that are too headstrong and leading with their ego are going to fuel, another word, there you go, back to that, fuel people that would not normally fight people in positions of power. If you look at what's going on in the collective, I don't care your political leanings, it's not about that. You see a divided response. And this week has a very heavy marker of frustrations with people in positions of power. Mars-Pluto is arguably the biggest of those, but it's not the only one. Put a pin in that. Let's go to number 3. At the end of the week, on Sunday, we are going to have a full moon in Leo. Leo is a sign of power, of confidence, and regretfully, don't come from Leo risings and Leo moons, ego. That centering of the sun on individuals, people that want all of the spotlight on them. A lot of people are not going to like the spotlight that appears, that is seeing them. Some people are not going to be ready for the judgment. They're not going to be ready for the things that come to light. They're not going to be ready for the fueling that they've created because it's not their fueling, it's the response. The thing about this start of Neptune and Aries, I'm tying a nice little bow, I'm going to bring them all together. This start of Neptune and Aries is I want to compare it back to the last time we had the entry of Neptune into Aries. When was that, Dusty? Oh yeah, I talked about this on another episode a long time ago, last summer specifically. The first time, not the first time is in 2025. The last time Neptune went into Aries back in the 1800s, it was the start of the Civil War. It was the start of it. Day 1 of Neptune in Aries was the day that they had the shots fired in North Carolina, South Carolina, one of the Carolinas. I forget which one now. Nothing went to plan this week, and I did not actually get the chance to read all my notes the way that I anticipated, just because of how much did not go to plan this last week. So I apologize. Google it. The day Neptune went into Aries was the day of the Civil War. Now, Dusty, are you saying the Civil War is going to start this week? God, I hope not. That's not what I'm trying to manifest. That's not what I'm trying to put out there. But what I am saying is there is a fuel that is going into power, into place. There is a fueling in many of our hopes, our dreams, our drive, our determination, our manifestations, our desires. But that's putting it in a nice way. Not everybody is being nice right now. They're really not. Some people are being fueled in rage, in frustration. They're being fueled by a power struggle because of how the Plutonian transits last week went, which I warned you about, and the fact that we're going into another one this week. And that Mars-Pluto conjunction happens immediately after Neptune goes into Aries. Something new in the fueling, something new in our actions and in our reactions, some new vibration that speaks to either interrupting a power dynamic, Mars conjunct Pluto. Interruptions may vary. Remember, I've said words like rage and war this week, and I'm not wishing for it. I'm just being very realistic. Okay. Fueling an action or a reaction this week. There's a momentum. I said it for a long time. January is a 1 month. That's a new beginning in numerology. In a 1 year, that is a new beginning in numerology. And as this year continues and these outer planets go into new signs, and it's specific to the outer planets, because the outer planets set the mood and the tone for however long they're in the sign. Okay. You can tell a very big difference between like a Pluto in Libra Gen Xer to a Pluto in Virgo Gen Xer. You can tell the difference between the Pluto and Scorpio generation to the Pluto in Sagittarius generation. These are all very different mentalities, but Pluto is an outer planet, and that's why I'm using this as the example. Neptune goes into Aries this week. This is the first of the 4 outer planets that will be changing signs this year. Saturn comes around Valentine's Day. I'm just rounding. Uranus will change signs by the end of April. And then by the end of June, Jupiter will change signs. This is our first outer planet completely submerging, cannonballing into a pool of fire known as Aries. Yay. Yay? I don't know yet. Results may vary. There is a fueling. There's an awareness of where a power dynamic has been, a power struggle has been, where fear has been, that requires facing our fears head on. Something I said last week, I'm pulling it back to now. It requires facing a power dynamic head on, whether it's a struggle or assuming, like stepping into some form of power. Both are real. All of it is viable. There is a fueling. There are going to be elements of rage, frustration, tensions, fighting, just as much as there's going to be a fueling towards a desire, towards a manifestation, towards a direction, towards something we wish to accomplish. Results may vary. Just want to get real clear on that real fast. We are in a continuation of the new normal that has been slowly taking shape through all of January, this first round of it. And I'm going to remind everybody, everything that we've been dealing with through January, because this is the final days of January, is feeding into the bigger dynamic that sets the stage in eclipse season, which will require immediate changes, and really ramping up in April from now, from what we've been dealing with, from all of the anchoring, rooting that we've been doing in January. Okay. All right. I'm going to quit beating up on that. We're going to get into the transits. We're going to get into Monday. And we're starting the day with moon in Taurus. The one thing I do like is with the moon in Taurus is we try to do things that are a little bit more comfortable with a lot of people, but I feel like there's a lot of opinionating things going on only because of the condition of Venus. Venus is in Aquarius. Now, the one thing I do like about Venus is still in mutual reception with Uranus. So there is this understanding of like both of these signs connecting with one another. And whatever we've been dealing with, in some ways, we are aware we're doing something for the last time. We're not going to do certain things the same way. That can come in through big and small ways. But the main reason is this will be the last time that we have Venus in Aquarius and Uranus in a Venus ruled sign for a good 30 to 40 years. Like the next time we're going to have this, Uranus is going to be in Libra. That's a long time away. So if you feel yourself saying things, doing things, having a change in your opinion that you don't want to continue things in a certain way because they're not comfortable anymore, that's also a dynamic of this week. And it doesn't have to be a part of the fuel and the rage, just to be clear, but it can be a part of this week. And since we are starting again with the moon in Taurus, that would make sense. And there's a lot of conversations that need to be had. And if we look at this first transit, so I've got it here at 4:30. This first one is going to be felt the most exact between 4 a.m. and 6 a.m. Central Standard Time. I have Mercury here in Aquarius at 9 degrees 45 minutes, going through a squares, and Mercury is in the higher authority, so hitting a square to the moon. There is a decision, there is an opinion, there is a conversation, there is a document or documentation. There is some kind of news. There is something being pushed onto someone else, told to someone else, directed at someone else. Some of you will be the director. Some of you will be the receiver. Mercury hitting the square to the moon. Now, this is more communicative. This is more informational. This is more conversational. It can include things towards a contract, but it doesn't feel tangible. And we're going to have things towards like contracts, agreements, and negotiations that'll be a part of the week, but it does not feel tangible this week. It feels more inspirational or conversational, especially in the first half of the week. Mercury hits the square to the moon. Now, this is going to be wrapped up by 6 a.m. right afterwards, whenever we go from the 6:30 to 8:30 time span. So I got this now at 7:30. Now I've got Venus hitting her square to the moon. You can see that right here. Venus again. Venus is hosting this moon. Venus is still in that mutual reception with Uranus, like I was just talking about. And some of the energy that we're talking about is, again, how we want to change something, telling someone. And I do not be surprised if we're saying something about doing something for the last time. A lot of us left 2025 still kind of lingering in the unfinished business area. And the opinion right now is like anything that's like creating frustration, that is causing extra weight, that is rubbing you the wrong way. We're willing to make that change. Even if we're not making it in the moment, you can still be in that place where you're like, just your direction is like, I'm going to make a change, but you might not be making a change in the second, but it's giving direction or an idea of upcoming changes that are going to be effective for the long term. There's a slew of that kind of energy going around. Venus hitting the square to the moon. This isn't going to have to be heavy for everybody. It can actually be very supportive. There can be emotional support, but it's emotional support, again, towards the opinions of something that we want to change that we do not like, whether it's an appearance change, whether it is a desire change. There is something about this that we're pushing onto someone else and letting them know Some people are going to be comfortable with it. Some people are not, just to be clear. Now, considering we got Neptune here at that 29:59, all through the overnight hours going into Monday, wrapping up its trip through Pisces. So again, a lot of us are having this reaction of like, we're doing something for the last time. However, some of us are really feeling that reaction and we're getting support in a lot of ways of something new that we want to do. So I'm going to go ahead and bump this now. I got it at 11:30. Here you see Neptune 29:59. I bump it one more hour. Neptune is now in Aries. And this is where he's going to stay for a very, very long time. Everybody get comfortable. Neptune is going to arrive into Aries. This is the fuel. This is the desire. This is the manifestation. This is the dream. This is the thing that we're trying to get happening, that we're pushing forward. Now, I want to bring up, because Neptune just did come into the Mars ruled sign. Over these next few days, you'll notice Mars and Pluto are getting closer together. Their conjunction does happen this week, and it's happening in the earlier parts of the week. But now Neptune is being hosted by that Mars. Whatever action reaction that is starting to unfold between Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday timeframe, most exact during those days, it's a new disruption. It's a new reaction. Some people are not going to know how to take the action you're trying to take. They're not going to know how to respond, where this belief came from, what's going on. They're not going to understand it. But again, there is a fueling in the air. Results may vary. That's probably going to be the name of this week's episode, by the way, because I keep saying it. It's like, I don't know which way y'all are going. I know where I'm at. And it's still a fueling no matter what. Okay, we're going to keep it going. All right, between 6 and 8 p.m., I got it now at 6:30. The moon in Taurus, 17 degrees, 50 minutes, is going to hit a sextile to Jupiter. You can see that right here. This is going to be felt the most exact between like 5:45 and 8 p.m., but I went ahead on my notes. I wrote 6 p.m. This is not heavy energy. This is actually something about understanding. Jupiter, of course, being the doctor, the guru, the teacher, giving some kind of news to a teacher or somebody that you respect, receiving some type of lessons of some sort. Some of us is that guidance, direction, understanding. This is more about like a respect energy than anything else. But we could be talking about the wellness of somebody. We could be talking about what's going on with our money with the Jupiter part right here. It can have to do with our prosperity or things that we're trying to put together. There is a need for some level of support that is being addressed here for a lot of people, but it's being addressed, not being solved. Like there's conversations, but we're not connecting to something yet. We're trying to make something happen. This feels like it's going to be more likely to get some connections going later in the week. But when those connections finally happen, it's going to have an interesting detail to it. So we'll talk about that more whenever we get to the moon in Cancer. And that's literally going to be more like Friday, Saturday timeframe. So just be aware of that. There's something also about this early part of the week that does connect to the weekend, not just because of the full moon that's coming up. But again, the moon is going to hit the sextile to Jupiter, the most exact between 5:45 and 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. So you can kind of see that right here. After this, there's no more direct transits to Monday. We're going to get this to the 27th. Now, we're not going to start to hit our transits until the actual morning time. So I'm going to get this to the right window. Our first one is going to happen between 10 a.m. and noon, but it corresponds with another one. So I'm going to go ahead and bump it to one more to 11:30. And this corresponds also with whenever Saturn is involved too. So we got two things here. First going on. The moon is going to hit this conjunction to Uranus. Anytime we have anything tied to Uranus, there could be something unexpected, something new, something going on. It's also going through a sextile with Saturn. There's something from a person in a position of authority, somebody that is pushing an impression that isn't easily received well, or it causes some kind of like shock to the system. Now, there's a reason I'm saying that in particular is because look at the conjunction that is building between Mars and Pluto. Saturn is the traditional ruler of Aquarius. Uranus is the modern ruler of Aquarius. We have this one little lunar element coming through, getting a feel of something, trying to understand something. Downloads can be real, but sometimes if you have somebody in a position of authority, Saturn being more likely to be the authority, it can hit a shock button so deeply in here that it fuels a rage, it fuels a reaction. Considering we have this conjunction of Mars and Pluto that is building, it's not happening at this exact moment, but it is happening on this day. So let's be clear about that. It is happening on this day. This feels like it, for a lot of people, is going to be a very big shock to their system that shifts a narrative, it shifts some information, it shifts the conversations, and it triggers something to where suddenly it's going to get a lot louder and more opinionated than it has been. Why do you say that, Dusty? Well, let's continue. Let's talk about it. As I bump this forward a little bit more, we're going to have a couple things that all start to play out near the same time. First and foremost, between 2 and 4 p.m. Central Standard Time, so I got this right now at 2:30, the moon is going to start a sextile from Neptune. Now, remember, Neptune just changed signs, so we have new things going on here. Also, Neptune is in Mars's sign. So the new can be the fueling, it can be the reaction, it can be the rage, it can be the desire, it can be the termination, it could be the direction, it can be the dream. Results may vary. However, as we continue in the same window of time, I'm going to bump this down from 2:30 to 3:30. The moon is going to go into Gemini, and we're getting closer now to this Mars Pluto. But again, the moon is now in Gemini. Gemini, which is ruled by Mercury, the ruler of our logical brain, the things that we're processing, the things that we're thinking about, the opinions that we have. As soon as the moon goes into Gemini, it hits that sextile from Neptune, which is newly changed signs. So we have something new on the horizon, and whatever new is on the horizon, there's going to be a lot to talk about. I don't care if this is in your individual life or for the collective. There's a lot to say. There's a lot to talk about. There's a lot of opinions. There's a lot of information. And there's going to be so much that's going by so fast. Some people's heads are going to spin. In other ways, we're not going to know what's real and what's not, what's true and what's not, because suddenly everybody's an expert in something. And if you've been on social media at any point in the last 5 years, everybody's an expert at something in some way, shape, or form. Now, there is something that needs to be spoken, communicated, talked through, planned through, whether pivotally or chaotically. Results may vary. That starts to really grab everybody in the room. It's a part of every conversation. It's a dominating force. And whatever we are talking through, whatever we are negotiating, whatever's going on in the conversations and the situations, we're trying to put something into perspective for the long term. Why do I say that? Because this is happening while Mercury is in Aquarius, which is in a fixed air sign. And for a lot of people, there is this idea of like something that needs to move forward while still having lingerings of old dynamics that need to get worked through. And depending on how much you have remaining in your unfinished business can make a big difference on how much you can push forward in the new business. There's a transition. Well, Gemini is a mutable sign. It's a sign that bridges us from the old season to the new season. We're supposed to be transitioning, and it's going to be very, very loud. Hi, I am also a Gemini Sun and Mercury. If you can't tell. Anyways, the moon is in Gemini. Now, newly arrived, hitting that sextile from Neptune, just about an hour and a half later, between 4:59 and 5:29 p.m. So I'm just bumping this now to 5:30. Here is when we have our exact Mars-Pluto conjunction. Now, just because this is the most exact between 4 and 5 p.m. or 5:30, yeah. It doesn't matter. The thing is, this dynamic can be felt at any time throughout the day, fueling a reaction, an action, a tension, a frustration, of some sorts. Why am I hearing biblical proportions? That could be because of all the crap I've been hearing from the weather from over the weekend. I might be projecting on that one. I literally just heard that for some reason, and I said it. I'm not a biblical person. Don't quote me on anything. That literally just came, and it's ringing really loud in my ear. Do with that what you will. Okay. Results may vary. Individual experiences will not be the same for the collective, but it's happening either way. We're living through it either way. There's something new that is very, very disruptive. Good luck with that. Okay. Now, the Mars-Pluto conjunction is the most exact again between 4:59 and 5:29 p.m. Central Standard Time. As we continue into the evening, this kind of disruption, this new disruption is going to again fuel a lot of opinions. That has layers to it because when we get to this range between 7:30 and 10:30 p.m., I gave a bigger window for this. Got it now at 9:30. Pluto will hit a trine to the moon as well as Mars, but because these two are just starting to separate, there's enough of a window to where I would just want to encompass like this is basically the second half of the day. Because the Mars-Pluto conjunction is the most exact again between that 4:59 and 5:29. And then just after that, that conjunction hits a trine to the moon. The whole second half of the day has news. Transitional news, reactive news, results may vary of whether it's chaotic or pivotal, but there's a new vibration, a new fueling, a new power dynamic, whether it is you taking power or something is being forced upon you. There's a disruption here. Do with that what you will. Be prepared. I am hoping for the pivotal disruption, but given the way that the last series of transits between Mars and Pluto have went, I am not holding my breath. And y'all that went through Land of Confusion week with me. So again, results may vary. We're gonna keep it going. After this transit, it's the human effect. We're still gonna feel it. We're gonna feel it into Wednesday and Thursday. I said that already. I'm going to continue to say it. There is a disruption, a fueling disruption that is shifting the mood. It's shifting the conversation. It's shifting the plans. It's shifting our ideas. Moving this forward, we're getting into the 28th. Now, when it comes to the transits through the 28th, the moon's going to be in Gemini all day long. It's still going to be noisy, still got a lot of opinions. But when it comes to like the other planetary dynamics, they're feeding into the day, but not direct on the day, or they're feeding into another transit that's about to happen, but not necessarily direct it, like a direct impact. It's just the environment, it's the atmosphere, it's the lingering elements towards the human effect. People are going to be opinionated, people are going to be upset, people are going to be frustrated. Now, between 4 and 6 a.m., I got this now at 4:30, the sun is going to hit a trine to the moon, and we're building towards the full moon. We're building towards something that is going to impact the ego, impact the confidence. And this is, again, a shift towards information. There's a lot of things being spoken about, worked through, talked about. There's recognition in some way about how someone has like contributed to this information, or what our plan. If we do this the right way, it will satisfy my ego. It will put a lot of attention on me. It will go a certain direction. Sun trine the moon. For other people, you're going to be hearing what somebody has to say, and it's either going to seem like you're talking to the most egotistical person in the room, or you are going to be very amazed by their confidence. Whatever they're thinking, whatever is fueling them, you believe them. And not in the egotistical way, but more along the lines of like, wow, I think you really got something here. You're right, Pinky. Let's do it. Let's take over the world. Yay, brain. Okay, sorry, I'm 5. There's something here that you can see someone in their power for just a moment. But the way you see their light is more positive than negative. Be aware of that part. Okay, now we're going to keep this going. And we have another transit that's building. You can kind of see them right here. And this is the conjunction between Mercury and Venus. There are hidden benefits to this week, and they really kind of come through with the Mercury-Venus thing. These two do not go exact on Wednesday, but they do influence the moon on Wednesday. So I'm going to bump this now to 2:30 because that's going to kind of encompass both of them. Get this here. Got it now, 2:30. Okay. Between 1 and 3 p.m., Mercury, the ruler of Gemini, is going to hit a trine to the moon, okay, in Gemini. Right afterwards, between 1:30 and 3:30, so there we've got this element of like a twofer. Venus is also hitting the trine to the moon. Now they have a building conjunction happening towards an agreement, towards something, towards a plan, towards a desire, not Mars desire, Venusian desire, things that feel good, things that we want to change, things that we want to do different, things that should not continue in a certain way. Why am I saying that? Because remember, this will be the last time Venus is in Aquarius while Uranus is in Taurus. Once Uranus leaves Taurus later this year, we're not going to have another time span of mutual reception for a good 30 to 40 years. We got some time. But we're building towards this conjunction, and this will be the second conjunction between Mercury and Venus in a series of 3. I haven't been as heavy on these because these feel like a light, just a little light glimmer of potential, but hard to overwhelm everything else. But every once in a while, you have exactly that. You have that one glimmer of hope in a world of chaos, in a world of strange things, and shit not making sense. In a pool of frustration, somebody can still crack a joke, Moon and Gemini, and get you laughing. They can still hit that bone. They can hit that little spot that you're not even thinking, like, what? Where did that come from? I just thought we needed to lighten the mood a little bit. Look, there's snow outside. But guess what? There's not a mosquito in sight. Like, it's that kind of joke. It's one of those things I'm like, it's so dumb. It's like, oh, God. But it's just enough for the distraction. That's what this feels like. The Mercury-Venus conjunction that is building, but not exact, but hitting these trines to the moon. Some kind of benefit coming together slowly. It might not come together immediately. It might be more so going into Wednesday, Thursday. It can still be a continuance of that fueling and drive or some level correlated to whatever the Mars element is, because in Mars and Pluto, they're still very tight together, but there's a little glimmer of hope in there. There's a little idea. There's a little positive vibration that it's like, I think we can make this work. Thanks for that. I needed the laugh. I needed the joke. Sometimes you just need a good dad joke. There you go. Do with that what you will. Venus and Mercury hitting their trine right before their conjunction happens. It's just a little lightening in the mood. And sometimes you need that. Sometimes you need the joke. You need something. And that kind of takes a big part of the afternoon. Let's lighten it up a little bit. Let's lighten the mood. We need it in some way. All right, we're going to keep it going. There are no more transits to the day. We're going to get this going into the 29th. There we go. And as we go into the overnight hours, we do hit our Venus-Mercury conjunction. And this is going to happen roughly between 3:50 and 4:58 a.m. So I got this now at 4:30. They do this at a couple different degrees. I think it's like 14:55 to 58 or 59. Like, this is the range, but you can see it right here. Venus is 14 degrees, 57 minutes. Here's Mercury, 14 degrees, 57 minutes. And simultaneously, while these two are hitting their conjunction, Chiron, 22:55, is going to hit this sextile to the moon. You can see this right here. Now, Chiron is also in Mars' sign. There can be an element around the fueling vibration, but Chiron is more focused on healing because he's the wounded healer. He's more focused on solutions or what we could do to fix something, to put something into perspective. Now, is his fix like a big element of fixing it forever? No, it's like, well, the last time something like this went wrong, I did XYZ 1, 2, 3. Try one of these things. Try Control-Alt-Delete. Try shaking it like an Etch-a-Sketch. Try doing something. But again, we have this Mercury-Venus conjunction. This is a commitment. So the solution can have a commitment. Are we immediately committing to a change? Some. Are we immediately enacting change? I'm not quick to say that. I feel like there's still so much in the energy fueling. I feel like there's certain commitments, connections, conversations, contracts being signed, being negotiated, some kinds of news out there that just gives a glimmer of hope. It gives a glimmer of some additional changes coming through, but not necessarily in the moment. But that doesn't mean it's still not a glimmer of hope. This kind of conversation, this kind of commitment, this kind of vibration can still be really helpful. But again, we still got Mars and Pluto in their conjunction, even though they're separating. So results may vary. I'm really just going to keep saying that the entire episode. Okay. As we get into the afternoon between 1 p.m. and 3 p.m. Central Standard Time, Saturn, good old daddy Saturn, is going to hit a square to the moon. I got this now at 2:30. Here is Saturn, 28 degrees, 25 minutes. Here is the moon at 28:46. So we're a little bit past the exact. It looks like it was exact closer to 2 p.m. Saturn is hosting Mars, Pluto, the Sun, Venus, Mercury. I didn't say that in order. It's hosting a lot of energy. Saturn is wrapping up its trip through Pisces. He's not ready to be done yet. He's not going to be done until right around Valentine's Day time frame. I just keep anchoring it to that time frame. But there's been so much shock, so much coming through. We might have one more addressing as to the shock of a situation, because I do feel like there's going to be a shock vibration that's kind of going on too. But I don't know that it's set in quite yet. I feel like it sets in more when the moon goes into Cancer, which that is going to happen here shortly. So be aware whenever it comes to this vibration, like there can be news, there can be direction, there can be an order of some sort, Saturn being that higher position and authority, and an order to change something again. And the thing is, like, this is going to be something towards a long-term change. It doesn't have to be all the same long-term changes throughout the week. It could be a series of changes. But this one right here feels like it's direction. It's giving guidance to someone else. It's telling the news to someone else. It's talking about either the fueling disruption of what we just did with Mars Pluto, or the direction has to do with that Mercury Venus conjunction that was exact earlier in the day. And part of the direction could be the glimmer of hope. Results may vary. Okay. Bumping this forward between 3:30 and 5:30 p.m., you'll see the moon here in Gemini is going to transition into Cancer and immediately start its square from Neptune. So at 5:30, you can see that here. Here's Neptune, and here's the moon. Now, Neptune just changed signs. The moon going into Cancer, as soon as it goes in, hits a square from Neptune. This fueling energy, but the moon is now in its own sign. It's in a cardinal sign. And I feel like once the moon goes into Cancer, there's going to be a whole level of new emotional processing that needs to start. For some people, that's going to be literally the floods of tears of, I just got to get this out of my system. I don't know what else to do. I got to get it out. I need to work through this emotion. I need to work through something. So much has happened this week. Results may vary, whether it was chaotic disruption or pivotal disruption. There has been this fueling, but now we need some time for emotional processing once the moon goes into Cancer. For other people, you don't need to process in the Crimea River aspect. You need to process in the sense of like, this is what we do to take care of what we need for the new deal, for the new vibration, for the new plan, for the thing we're working towards. There can be this level of emotional processing in that regard. Taking extra steps to take care of something, because the moon is in Cancer. There can be a whole different focus of something that we need to do with our family, some level of reaction in this way, but there is an emotional response coming through that is directly impacted from that fueling. And for a lot of people, we're not entirely okay with the things that we're going through. And there's going to be a lot of emotional indifference and not seeing eye to eye while the moon goes through Cancer. because the entire time the moon is going through Cancer, it's hitting what's called quincunxes to Aquarius, to all that stubborn Aquarius change energy. I don't want to change. I don't want to do this. I didn't agree to this. I don't know what to do about this. But it's a part of your emotional processing. Be aware of that. There'll be a lot of emotions. All right. The moon is now in Cancer and it's hitting that square from Neptune. Again, there's something new on the horizon. There's something new fueling an action or a reaction. There's a new belief at hand and it is being addressed in some way. It's being brought to the surface in some way. For other people, you're going to be hearing somebody else's new fueling with the Neptune part. And again, we might not immediately know how to process it. You're going to do what? You're moving where? When did this happen? When was this decided? Where was I when this happened? There's going to be confusion around it too because of the Neptune vibration. So Neptune is hitting this square to the moon. This can give glimpses of some of the stuff we start to deal with as we go through late Saturday going into Sunday. So like as we get closer to the full moon. So be aware that whenever the moon first goes into Cancer, if you get some kind of foreshadowy glimpse of some sort, just pay attention to what starts to go on this evening because it can play into the full moon given the Neptune vibe. Because there is a specific note that I have whenever the moon goes into Leo that I will reference again. So this is why I'm saying that. Okay. Neptune hits a square to the moon, and a lot of people are going to be disgruntled, confused. There's some processing. There's things that we don't agree with. There are things that we're hearing, and as soon as we hear them, we don't know how to handle them. There is indifference. There is a different part of the response to the fueling. And some of us are just going to be focused on our motivation, while other people are going to be like, I don't want to play with you anymore. And that's okay. Not everybody goes with us into the same vibration of the new normal. A lot of us, our frequencies have been changing. And there will be some people we do not continue to vibe with. And sometimes that will also be a part of the emotional processing. Do what you need to do. Okay, moving along. We're going to get this going. We're going to get into the 30th. Of course, the moon is still going to be in Cancer all day long. All throughout the day, the moon starts to make these like quincunxes. So you can see parts of this, like it doesn't want to see eye to eye with Pluto. It doesn't want to see eye to eye with Mars. As we keep this going, it doesn't want to see eye to eye with the sun. Like there's just this energy of like indifference, frustration, not understanding. And it kind of continues throughout the day. Indifference, processing of emotions, processing of ideas, processing of things going on. You can see these little green dotted lines. This is like that in conjunction, quincunx, indifference, disgruntled, emotions to opinions. You do whatever you want to do. I don't have to agree with it. And you're right. You don't have to agree with it, but they don't have to agree with you either. And as we get into the evening time, between 8:30 and 10:30 p.m. Central Standard Time, the moon is going to hit this conjunction to Jupiter. And this conjunction is in that quincunx to the Venus Mercury that just had a conjunction. Some of the new agreements, some of what felt like a glimmer of hope, other people don't like, they don't agree with, they don't understand it. I don't know where this is coming from. I don't know how you're going to do it. Some of us, it's just going to be an internal conflict. This is what I want to do, but I don't know how to do it. I don't know what to do next. I don't know what to say next. I don't know how to make something happen. And that can be a part of the vibration too. I don't know what I don't know. I don't know how we're going to make something happen. And if you're confused in this moment of like, I don't know how to deal with this, allow yourself the space to process that emotion. Get it out of your system. In some ways, we're meant to be blind to parts of this week. It is okay to not know exactly how to do something or how to fix something. That's a temporary vibration. It's temporary. It will not last. Now, are you going to have an answer in a day or two? Probably not. Are you going to be able to fix something in a day or two? Probably not. But still allow yourself the grace to feel whatever emotion. And if you see things coming together that you do not agree with, you're probably not meant to. Results may vary. Do with that what you will. Okay, we're going to keep this going. We're going to get into the 31st. We're getting into the weekend. As we get into the morning time between 5:30 and 7:30 a.m., got this now at 6:30, Chiron is going to hit a square to the moon. And what I think is interesting is whenever we go through this square between Chiron and the moon, you can see Chiron right here. It's 22:59. Chiron is about to get off the 22-degree mark. This is where Chiron has been since the beginning of December. Like Chiron turned direct at 22 degrees of Aries. The wounded healer is starting to move again. Solutions feel like they're possible. Our ability to fix something, whether it's a physical thing in the world or something within ourselves, it feels a little bit like there's a possibility of it. And some of us might recognize that, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's tied to everything. You might find a solution in one area of life or feel like you can make progress right here, but still be stuck in another area. Take the win. Focus on what you can. Do not try to control what you can't. That is the best advice I can give. Oh, between 5:30 and 7:30 a.m., Chiron is going to hit the square to the moon. As we get into the afternoon, we start a ping pong effect of a couple different transits. And the first thing that I want to say as we go into this ping pong energy is there's something about this energy we are blind to. Because I was writing these notes last night somewhere around 11:30, and I kept getting stuck on these Neptune ones, whether it was the Neptune square that happened on Thursday or if it's the Neptune trine that's about to happen. It's not here yet, but we're getting really close to it. It doesn't matter which one it is. There's something we're blind to, and I want to be super clear about that. But this blindness has more of a motivation as things continue to take shape. So let's keep this going and why I'm saying that next that part right there. Between 1 and 3 p.m., Uranus 2727 is going to hit a sextile to the moon 2748. This could be something around technology, something coming through unexpectedly. You get a call. It feels kind of exciting. The thing about Uranus is hosting Mars, Pluto, the Sun, Venus, Mercury, not in that order. So some of this fueling vibration or that glimmer of hope vibration for the week can be a part of the expect the unexpected from Uranus. As we continue between 3 and 5 p.m., Saturn, the other ruler of Aquarius, is hitting its trine to the moon, water to water. There's emotion to emotion, understanding to understanding. Sometimes Saturn is the boss. It is the CEO. Sometimes this is about our rules and responsibilities. Sometimes this is going to have to do with the elders. Some of us are going to be talking about some last steps in responsibility, like things that we're not going to continue, because remember, Saturn is now wrapping up its trip through Pisces, and over the next 2 weeks, we're done with this. But for other people, we are very clear that we're in a transition, not necessarily a full expectation of direction yet, but we're clearly in a transition. And Saturn can be just that understanding or direction of what we're going to do in the new. But again, it might not be the full takeoff of the new. It's the process to developing the new. That's the better way to say it. It's the process of developing the new, or how we're responding, emotionally responding. Because again, Saturn is in Pisces, the moon is in Cancer, water to water, water flows. Let things flow through you. Allow yourself to emotionally process. And if you come to the conclusion that you're done with something, that is okay. That is perfectly okay. And some of you, that being done with something is going to speak to a fueling in a direction positively, depending on, again, your personal results. I'm going to keep this going. I'm going to keep feeding off of that statement. Get this to between 5:30 and pop one more hour, 6:30. The moon is going to go into Leo. And as soon as the moon goes into Leo, we are in full moon vibration. As soon as the moon goes into Leo, it is in a trine from Neptune. There is something we are blind to. There is something we are not anticipating. There is something that we are not sure of, that we are going to be confused about. But once it's understood, we are going to either be taking steps towards something that builds our confidence. There's that level of like, I want something that boosts me, that gives me a for reflection, a shift in the ego in the positive sense. For other people, there's going to be something that comes through that there's no way to decipher it, but you're a narcissist. Now that the moon is in Leo, not every Leo is a narcissist. I want to be clear about that. And just because you have a focus on you does not mean that you are leading with your ego, and it doesn't mean you're having narcissistic traits. But if you're motivated by something, if you have something that is directly impacting your confidence in a positive light, please understand your fire internally. This fire can be seen, it can be felt, it can be heard. And for some people, they can smell it too. There's something in the air. There is a fueling. And for some people, there's a blindness around it until we get to certain things. Because again, as soon as the moon goes into Leo, it hits that trine from Neptune, but it's going to impose everything in Aquarius as we go through the full moon. And again, as soon as the moon goes into Leo, we are in full moon vibration. It's not going to go exact until Sunday, but we're now in full moon vibration. So let's keep it going. Oh, the moon is in Leo. Here's the trine from Neptune. Here, 0, 8. Here's the moon, 0, 12. You can see that right here. When I was looking at this, I kept getting stuck. And every time I get stuck, it's usually, I would really say 80% of the time, it's a Neptune transit I get stuck on. Because with Neptune, there's always that range of like, there's lies, fraud, deception. There's that range that it's an effect, but sometimes the effect is like a physical effect. Like we feel something physically in our body because of the effect of Neptune. For other people, there is going to be this blinding, again, this faith, this manifestation, this desire, this dream, this passion. There's something new going through. And now that the moon is in Leo, there's a confidence boost. I'm literally right now, as I'm saying that, I keep picturing a transit that happened back in May of 2025. I don't know why that's connecting, but I'm feeling it. And this was right around Beltane time. That sounds right. After Easter, before Beltane, like that time frame. I don't know why. I'm so, like, as I'm saying this, I'm now picturing like the similarity of a vibration that I felt back in late April, early May of 2025. If you remember what you were doing during that time, go back through your notes, go back to your calendar, go back to your photos, see what triggers your memories, think back to how you were feeling, and understand something about that vibration is also feeding into this somehow. I'm not entirely sure how, but that's what I'm seeing because I see transits. I think you guys, a lot of you guys know that already. All right. Now, after we get through that trine with Pluto, there's some addressing that needs to happen. There's some conversations. There's going to be some headbutting. It's not necessarily going to be the easiest time. It's going to be hard to sleep for some people because some people do want to address something head on. And a lot of that's coming through based off of how these oppositions from Leo to Aquarius are going to start to play out. And I feel like this has elements towards tension for some people, chaotic disruption for a lot of people, just as much as there's the potential of pivotal. And I said this at the beginning. I felt like the earlier part of the week, that first part, whenever we had Neptune going into Aries and that Mars Pluto that was happening in the beginning part, I felt like that time frame was going to be more chaotic disruption than pivotal. This time frame, I'm really more like 50-50. I'm so serious when I say the results will vary. Because for some of you, you might see elements of both. And it's once the moon goes into Leo that's going to start to make sense. And this is the first opposition that we're going to focus on. Between 11:30 p.m. on the 31st and 1:30 a.m. on the 1st, the moon is going to hit this opposition to Pluto. There is an addressing. There's something about the power dynamic. There's something about the secrets that have been going on behind the scenes below the surface. There's something that we didn't know that we know now that we want to talk about it. We want to address it. We want to address it head on. We have to work through a power dynamic differently. And the plan, the fueling, can be exactly that, how we take something head on. The moon is hitting the opposition to Pluto. There's an awareness here. There's a boosting here. This opposition, again, it starts January 31st at 11:30 p.m. It continues into February 1st until about 1:30 in the morning. So there's a restless energy from Saturday going into Sunday. And that moon opposition to Pluto, which is a little bit more exact right here at this 12:30 time frame, we address something. We feel that we need to address something. Some of us, we're seeing something that triggers fear and insecurity. Some of us are addressing how somebody else has been triggered by something, their fears and insecurity. But we're doing it from a place of confidence. We're doing it from a place of fueling. We're doing it from a place of something else, because now the moon is in Leo. And again, we're in a full moon vibration. The problem is, I feel like there's going to be a lot of head butting if you get a lot of people that are going from the ego standpoint. So honestly, if I were you, probably not going out to the bar or anything like that on this particular full moon. Just an idea. Maybe we set this one out. Maybe we just set this one at home and deal with it that way. Okay, the moon hits this opposition to Pluto as we continue through the overnight hours between 5 and 7 a.m. I got this now at 5:30. The moon in Leo, so still in full moon vibration, is hitting the opposition to Mars. Confidence versus fury versus rage. Drive and determination versus ego. For some of you, it's going to be drive and determination meets this confidence. And it's like two forces being able to see eye to eye. So for some people, it will be positive. For other people, it's going to be headbutting. Results may vary. We're still in a post-reactionary energy. We've had a new fueling over the last few weeks, a new ambition, a new belief, a new desire, a new drive, a new manifestation. Some people are going to be with it. Some people are going to see somebody's passion and be like, yeah, let's go. Let's take over the world. Other people, you're going to see what somebody's working on, what they're wanting to do. You're going to see the action that they're taking. And you're going to be like, that's stupid. I'd never do that. I would do it this way. Results may vary. Do whatever you think is right. I keep repeating words. I'm so sorry. I haven't had a whole lot of sleep the last few days. But there is this vibration in this interaction. Now, I will say for some people, it will result in tension, not sugarcoating that. There is a fueling in the air, and not everybody is going to be able to handle it well. And there can be some headbutting if we got too much ego in the room. There can be some headbutting if we get ego meeting a passion that they don't agree with. Do with that what you will. And as we continue into the afternoon, our final transit is actually our full moon. Now, this is going to be felt the most exact between 3 and 5 p.m., getting this now to 4:30. Here's the sun, 13 degrees, 4 minutes. Here's the moon, 13:15. This is actually exact at 4:09 p.m. Central Standard Time. Now, the thing about the full moon is there's not a whole lot of direct other transits going on. We have those little lunar transits throughout the day, but this is a full moon in Leo. That confidence, the way we wish to be seen, the way that we wish to be heard, a boost in some way. But it's funny, when I was looking at this last night, what I was paying attention to is I'm looking at the sun. Now, the sun is said to be in its detriment in Aquarius. It's not well placed here. The sun does not do well where Saturn does well. Saturn does not do well where the sun goes well. So there's some things that for people that are too confident, it can go the wrong way, or it can not necessarily be received well. Can be. But in this regard, I feel like it is received well, because the moon, it looks like it's the center of the crowd. Not the moon, I'm sorry, the sun. The sun. It's a full moon in the sun sign, but I'm looking at the sun. And it's this center stage between Pluto, Mars, Venus, and Mercury. It's like so much is revolving around this confidence, this drive, this desire. There's so much fueling this strength, this beacon of strength that is coming through. There's so much surrounding the light that's filling the room. And if you are coming from a place of that level of confidence, from a pure area that is around not going towards ego and just satisfying a single individual's nature, but doing something that is fair and righteous and adored by everyone, supported by everyone, there is a showcasing of light in this vibration. But if you're coming from a point of ego, if you're only worried about what serves you and your needs, there's going to be judgment. And it will feel like things are being pitted against you. That they look better. Someone else looks better than you. Acts like they can do it better. Talks like they can do it better. Results may vary. Now, I am personally looking forward to this full moon. I like the energy. I like the vibration. I gotta be honest, for parts of last year, I was kind of enjoying those Aries transits as an individual, maybe not in the collective, but as an individual. Neptune going back into Aries, this doesn't scare me. But I know it comes like gasoline onto a fire. It's a fueling. It's a fueling around beliefs. It's a fueling around certain desires. It is a fueling about a passion, about direction, about a determination. And for some people, when you start to show people what is really fueling you, they will love you. They will follow you. They will support you. But for other people, if your energy is rageful, it's disdainful, it's frustrating, it's infuriating, people will quickly turn against you. Results may vary. Be aware of your vibration. Be aware of the disruptions coming through this next week. Be aware of that level of disruption fueling a certain kind of reaction internally from you. The thing about this full moon is it's the last lunation before we go into eclipse season. The next eclipse, the new moon in Aquarius, will be an out of sign eclipse, setting the stage for new long-term commitments. This right here, for a lot of people, if it's not showing you a beacon of light and direction, because again, the sun, Leo is ruled by the sun. For other people, it's going to feel like a dividing line. And there's going to be something that needs to end. Because a lot of times a full moon has to do with a pinnacle level of completion. But a completion for some people can be a level up. You can get a job promotion. For other people, you can hit the next round of what you're going to do in your career and in your path for the future. There's something here that once it comes to light, it is either going to pull a vibration of people that want the light, moths to a flame, or it is going to repel because they can't stand the heat in the kitchen. Because sometimes the heat's too much. It's too hot. It's popping like grease. And I don't want to get popped. I hate a grease pop. It's the only thing that made sense. I apologize. Results may vary. That's the best response I have. A lot of this week is feeding from the prior weeks. It's anchoring and putting a new base of something we're going to do for the long term. And a lot of that base is very busy. It's very opinionated, but it is also very driven. It is very motivated. It is fueling something, fueling a desire. So many of us, again, we are aware we're doing some things for the last time, that we're separating from certain people and certain places and certain things because we had just a little bit left of that unfinished business from last year. How big or how small varies for everybody. But there's more and more coming through that's showing us that next path, that next direction. And if you're scared of something new, I don't know what to tell you because you cannot avoid it. It's happening. It's coming. And again, when it comes to the areas around the collective, I don't like it because, again, the last time we fully submerged Neptune into Aries back in the 1800s, it was the start of the Civil War. I don't like that. Hopefully, you land in someplace better. Okay. I love and appreciate every single one of you. Thank you for the support. Thank you for the shares. Thank you for the feedback. I had so many people email, text me. I'm so serious. There was so much communication from last week's episode. I feel very, very charged into what we're going into next. And I've got a fueled passion of my own that I'll be telling you guys about very, very soon. I love and appreciate every single one of you. I will talk to everybody very, very soon. Subscribe.